Everyone in the city knew the name Adrian Blackwood, not because he sought attention, but because his wealth spoke in silent, towering numbers, glass skyscrapers, private charities, headlines about billion-dollar deals. Yet behind the iron gates of his mansion, Adrian's life was painfully simple and painfully broken. His son, Leo, barely 2 years old, had become known for one troubling habit: he bit every nanny who came close to him. Some screamed, some cried, some quit on the spot, and others tried to hide their fear behind professionalism, but none lasted more than a week. Adrian watched it all unfold with a hollow chest, standing at a distance as yet another nanny packed her bags, shaking her head and whispering that the child was impossible. The doctor said Leo was healthy. Therapists blamed early trauma, the loss of his mother during childbirth, the emotional absence of a father buried in work and grief. Adrian blamed himself. He had tried everything: the best psychologists, luxury nurseries, imported toys, endless interviews with nannies who came armed with certificates and confidence. Nothing worked. Leo bit, screamed, and cried whenever anyone tried to hold him, feed him, or even look at him for too long. The mansion echoed with loneliness, despite being full of staff. Then one morning, without interviews, without expectations, a new maid arrived. Her name was Eliza. She wasn't hired to care for the child. She wasn't trained in child psychology. She wore a simple uniform, her hair neatly tied back, her eyes calm and observant. She was hired to clean floors, dust shelves, and stay invisible like the rest of the household help. On her first day, Adrian barely noticed her, until he heard laughter. Real laughter. Not the strained politeness of adults, but the soft, surprised giggle of a child who had just discovered something new. Adrian froze mid-step. That sound had been absent from his home for months. Slowly, quietly, he followed it. In the sunlit sitting room, he saw something that made his breath catch. Leo was sitting on the carpet, blocks scattered around him, and Eliza was nearby, not hovering, not forcing interaction. She was simply there, cleaning the table, humming softly under her breath. Leo crawled toward her. Adrian's heart pounded. He had seen this before. The bite always came next. He almost shouted a warning, but then Leo stopped. He looked up at Eliza. And he smiled. A wide, toothy, innocent smile. Eliza noticed him then and smiled back, not exaggerated, not nervous, just warm. She didn't reach for him. She didn't flinch. She said nothing. Leo reached out, touched her sleeve, and laughed again. No bite. No scream. Just laughter. Adrian felt something crack open inside him. Over the next few days, he watched from a distance as Leo gravitated toward Eliza again and again. She never tried to replace his mother. She never forced affection. She spoke to him like a person, not a problem. When Leo threw toys, she picked them up without scolding. When he cried, she sat nearby and waited until he calmed himself, then offered a cloth or a gentle word. And when he reached for her, she held him, not tightly, not possessively, but securely. Other staff noticed too. The boy who had terrified trained professionals now followed a maid around the house like a shadow. Adrian finally called Eliza into his study, expecting to hear some secret method, some hidden qualification. Instead, she stood nervously, hands folded, and told him the truth. She had grown up in foster homes. She knew what it felt like to be surrounded by people but still feel alone. He doesn't trust easily, she said softly. Neither did I. That night, Adrian sat alone in his study long after the house slept. For the first time since his wife's death, he allowed himself to cry, not from loss, but from hope. Days turned into weeks. Adrian began coming home earlier. He watched Eliza and Leo build towers, knock them down, and laugh. He noticed how Leo never bit her, not even once. Instead, the boy would press his forehead against hers when he felt overwhelmed, a silent gesture of trust. Adrian realized something painful and beautiful: love could not be bought, scheduled, or forced. It had to be felt, earned, and given freely. Eventually, Adrian made Eliza an offer, not just a raise, not just a new title, but a request. He asked her to help him learn how to be a father. Eliza hesitated, not because she felt unworthy, but because she understood the weight of what he was asking. She agreed on one condition: Leo's needs would always come before comfort or pride. Adrian agreed without hesitation. The transformation was slow but undeniable. Leo began speaking more, laughing more, and for the first time, sleeping through the night. The biting stopped completely. Doctors were stunned. Nannies who once quit in fear asked what miracle cure had been used. Adrian knew the answer was simple and humbling. Someone had seen his son not as a problem to fix, but as a child to understand. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mansion walls, Adrian sat on the floor beside Leo, awkward and unsure. Eliza watched quietly as Leo looked at his father, then reached out and took his hand. Adrian smiled through tears. In that moment, wealth meant nothing. Power meant nothing. All that mattered was connection. And it had taken the kindness of a maid to teach a millionaire how to love his own son. If this story touched your heart, reminded you that kindness can change lives, and that love often comes from the most unexpected places, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Stay with us for more powerful, emotional stories that prove humanity is richer than money, and sometimes, all it takes is one smile to change everything.